Hey, everybody. Today I want to talk about the idea of midlife and it not being a crisis, but rather a recalibration. And a lot of people hit midlife and think something's wrong because life is starting to feel different. What used to feel meaningful is no longer feeling meaningful. But I want to propose that maybe midlife isn't such a crisis, but a turning point. That moment where you realize the map you've been following is no longer making sense anymore. Midlife is often bringing up the question of now what? The main point I want to talk about is that the goals that once motivated you may not feel meaningful anymore. For example, perhaps the ideas you got from family or the prevailing culture about the kind of career you're supposed to have, the kind of family you're supposed to have, the kind of life you're supposed to live, no longer making sense in the same way for you. You may realize that success and meaning aren't the same thing. Midlife is often when people have the sense of waking up from autopilot and wanting to do something different. It can be really uncomfortable, however, but this discomfort can be really useful information that can help you move forward. There are lots of common midlife transitions that happen. People either change careers or jobs or they are burned out. You may notice relationship changes, things like divorce. If you have kids, perhaps they're growing up and they don't need you in the same way they once did. You may also have aging parents, which is causing changes. You may have health changes, physical changes in your body that are starting to make you question things. The main thing I want you to know for today is that midlife is not a pathology. When you approach this way, it's not going to help you. Instead, I want you to think of it as there's nothing wrong with you, but you need to pay attention. Your life needs some attention. Your old strategies aren't working in the same way, and it's time to ask some deeper questions. So, midlife can be an invitation to live more intentionally. I want to talk a little bit about how you can use ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, as a way to work with this. ACT helps people move toward what matters, even when life feels uncertain. The goal of ACT isn't to make things comfortable, but rather to build a meaningful life. So you may not control what happens in your life, but you can choose how you want to respond and which choices feel meaningful to you. Now, ACT can. Before we go any further, I want to make I want to differentiate between goals and values. So, if you think of your life as you driving a car and you're going toward a city, that city, when you approach it and get there, that's a goal, right? A goal is a destination. You make plans, you make efforts, and then you accomplish your goal. In this case, you arrive at the city. Great. Now what, right? You create new goals. You'll have new destinations. Your values in life are the directions you want to go. It's where do you want to go? What direction? So you hit the city, but then maybe you want to keep going north. So that's your next goal. You're going to hit the next city. Goals can be completed, whereas values are an ongoing way of living. What's interesting is you can achieve goals, but still feel empty and meaningless. On the opposite side, you can miss a goal, but still live meaningfully if you're aligned in your values. Examples of values, they can be your career, they could be your health, your relationships, but they would be things that you know matter to you and that you always want to move toward. Growth, courage, creativity, honesty, being a loving parent, things like that. An example I always like to think of is perhaps you have a goal of running a marathon. Now, the goal is let's train for and complete this marathon. The value it moves you toward is this idea of living with vitality and discipline. That's the value you want for your life. What's interesting here is if you get an injury and you can't complete the marathon, you're still living your values. And you can continue to live them even though you're injured and can't complete the marathon. So I want you to think of it like that. So the focus here is not to get rid of goals, but to really clarify what values you have and how you can use them. I want to give you really quickly some ideas of how you can do this. I have more examples in my blog post, but one really easy way you can do this is what I call the legacy question. Imagine people talking about your life years from now. Perhaps it's at your memorial service. You're gone, and people are gathering together to discuss, talk about you, and honor you. What do you want them to talk about? What do you want them to talk about at your memorial? What's interesting is it's probably not going to be specific goals as much. It's not going to be, oh, he accomplished this and achieved this. Maybe, but likely it's going to be about how you lived your life. Things like being kind or brave or are always present or generous or curious. This question can really help you to focus on what really matters for me. Another exercise I like that's similar is to kind of look at your life right now and see what are the things that have been energizing me lately in my life. What are the things that I have noticed have actually brought me energy that leave me feeling energized? And the flip of that is, what are things that have been leaving me feeling depleted or resentful? Moments of vitality often point toward our values. You can ask yourself, what is it about this moment of energy, of vitality? What made it meaningful for me? Moments of drain, of chronic drain, often point toward a disconnection from your values, going in the wrong direction. That would be a place to start, is to really clarify your values. And then you need to start taking some action, right? You need to make some changes. And so ACT often gives us great skills to work with this. One important one is the idea of acceptance. Accepting change doesn't mean liking it. So you may realize I need to make a change in my career, and it will bring up feelings of discomfort, right? Fear of failure, anxiety, overwhelm. Acceptance is the ability to acknowledge reality as it is so that you can respond effectively. I'm feeling really anxious, but this is no longer meaningful. I'm going to need to change it. Acceptance is a big skill. Another skill is this idea in ACT we call diffusion. It's the idea of being hijacked by your thoughts. So a great example when we're talking about midlife transitions is it's too late to make changes. Think about how powerful that can be, but not in a helpful way. So ACT encourages us to have a thought, but not buy into thoughts, not be hijacked by them. A simple way to do this is to simply label it. I'm having the thought that it's too late to do anything. Just doing that can put a little space and help you create some more momentum and get unstuck. Finally, another thing, ACT is called ACT, A-C-T, because it is about taking committed action. And rather than think of some giant, plan that could feel overwhelming, what is one small step that I could take right now that would move me toward what matters? If you thought about that driving destination and you picked north, what is one small step that will move me north, move me in the direction of my values? I think values are really great because they create better motivation than just feelings do. We may get really excited about a new job opportunity, but then get bogged down when we start interviewing or we get overwhelmed by feelings of fear. Values create steadier motivation. You're not just chasing a mood thinking, oh, I'll feel better if I get this job. You're saying, this job, if I move toward that, will help me live a more meaningful life. And that can be a much better motivator for actually making change. So what I want to leave you with is midlife isn't the end of something or a crisis. It's usually the beginning of something deeper. Our old roadmaps aren't working anymore. And so values become our compass. They give us direction. You don't need to reinvent your whole life overnight. Small actions can really move you towards something more meaningful. And so the real question is, what matters to me now? And how do I want to live it? I have a lot more about these topics on my blog, and I encourage you to go and check them out. I think this is a really important area, especially for people who are feeling stuck. Let me know if you have any questions or if I can help.